Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode in the series Dawah Ilallah, as we look at how to use comparative sciences to improve our ability to call people to Islam. And so we're looking at ways that we can implement things into our day-to-day lives as da'is that will make it easier for people to accept what we are saying. We're not trying to force techniques onto people. We are trying to improve ourselves so that the message that we are giving is clearer to the person. So we're not about gimmicks, not about little tricks. It's about how we can be understood better. Remember that what we say and what people hear can be two different things. So if we learn how to speak clearly and learn how to project the thoughts that we have in our mind clearly, then there won't be any misconceptions. I spoke a couple of weeks ago about how when we say something to somebody, we should actually ask them, what did you hear me say? Because often, when we don't have a clear goal in what we are speaking about, people can misunderstand us totally. And I've seen this happen a number of times in my own personal experience. So we're talking specifically about how we can be good or better or the best we can possibly be in presenting lectures or talks, whether they be to a small group of people or they be to millions of people. So now we're going to move on because I'm not going to recap everything, otherwise we won't have enough time to finish this series. The next point that I'd like to talk about is that when you do your lecture or you do your talk, that you need to be speaking responsibly. You need to be speaking responsibly. Be careful what you say. You are responsible for everything that comes out of your mouth. There needs to be a responsibility that you realize or should know that you have to the people you are going to be talking to. So make sure, number one, that you tell the truth. This is the best characteristic of a Muslim, to be truthful. Not to exaggerate, but to be truthful. Even if it is against what the masses want to hear, you still have to be truthful. But be tactful in your truthfulness. So you can package it in a way that is palatable to the person. So don't be hard, don't be rude, don't be unkind, but be truthful. So when you're presenting your talk, be truthful. Present it in a way that people will look at you and go, wow, you know, that's such a beautiful way that you explained it, even though it's a very, very difficult topic to talk about. They shouldn't go, yo, I'll never speak to that guy again. Because you presented a truth, but you presented it in a horrible way. So we have, unfortunately, some Muslims in the world that present things in a very harsh way. And they actually turn people away from Islam because of it. Or they prevent people from listening properly and how they should change themselves. So we want to present truth, but in a beautiful way, in a clear way. So we must take responsibility for the way we speak to people. Present every possible angle of the argument that you're presenting. Don't just present only one view. Present all the possible views on the topic. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The majority of scholars say this. There are some scholars that say this, and those that are in opposition to Islam will say this. So you're presenting all the different facets, because there may be some people who are listening that are in this group, that are in opposition to what you're saying. There may be some who are in the middle group that agree with what some scholars say. And there may be some that are in the group that agree with what the majority of the scholars say. So by including that, you bring them all into the argument. They bring them all into the question that you are dealing with in your talk or your presentation in doing dawah. So try to present all sides of the debate, all sides of the argument. So this is important to be all-inclusive in what you are saying. It is permissible to plagiarize material as long as the person who you are getting this material from agrees with you taking their material. So if you're going to plagiarize material, take somebody else's work, as long as you give them acknowledgement in the beginning of your talk, or you have agreement from them. Sometimes a lot of scholars, they will spend most of their time in the talk quoting who they got the information from. And what happens is it actually slows down the talk, because it says, and this book written in 1976 by such and such a publishing house quoted this and this. And this is a lot of information that can actually slow down the talk, because you're having to keep looking at your notes and looking at who quoted it. So make a broad statement in the beginning. This is a quote from a number of different writers, from a number of different books, from a number of different universities. If for the exact information of where I got it from, please refer to my website. And then you continue with your talk. You understand? Otherwise, it can slow down things. So don't be too concerned with quoting every single publishing house and every date that it was printed in and all the rest of it. Try to open up the series or open up the set of talks or whatever with saying where you got your source material from. But you don't have to go every single episode, every single talk that you do, and go back and tell everybody that all over again. Because that will take up 5-10 minutes of every episode, or it'll take 5 or 10 minutes of every talk that you're doing, especially if you are there for a series of talks, if you've been invited to present a series of talks on Islam. There are times where it is important to do that. Like if you are going to be talking about the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and how people throughout history have spoken about him, then it would be important for you to give the source material. But I'm talking about a general lecture or general talk. It actually slows down the whole idea, the whole process of your talk. So this is a way that we can make our speeches or our talks or our presentations when talking to people about Islam better. You need to give a certain amount of power to your talk. Don't just leave it powerless. And the way you give your talk power is by using words effectively. Try to sometimes add words in that are not just the simple run-of-the-mill words. You know, like say, elocute instead of speak. So try to bring in some words that are smart words, but don't bring in only smart words that you lose the audience. And they say, well, what's this guy trying to do? Show how smart he is and how great he is and how brilliant he is. Also, you want a 6-year-old to understand you and you want a 96-year-old to understand you. But it doesn't mean you have to dumb down your talk. You can still bring it up to the level. So don't use the same word over and over and over. Try to bring different words in. So use similes. Don't be afraid of using terminologies. If you feel that you need to explain that new word that you brought in, explain it. But try to not leave your speech powerless. Try to give it a bit of oomph. Try to bring in some terms that will empower people. Give them the strength to want to imitate maybe even the word that you've just used. So you want to help them emulate what you're saying. There's an example. So use things like repetition, alliterations. Use what you have in literature available to you. Use special sequences of sentences. Try to bring in analogies from literature as well. So not just using the same boring language. Try to bring in different things, metaphors, similes, cliches, anything that will help people respond better to what you are saying. But be careful if you're using cliches that they're not ones that make no sense, like cleanliness is next to godliness. I mean, if you really think about it, you know, people have that saying, it says cleanliness is next to godliness. A lot of people go, what has that got to do with anything? You know, being clean makes you godly, and then people might understand it in the wrong way. So be careful that you know what it means. Like another one, a friend to all is a friend to none. I mean, what does that mean? So make sure that you're using cliches that are good, that are wholesome. Try not to use a passive voice. What that means is that we don't emphasize any words. Some put the emphasis on the first word, and it becomes a little bit hard to keep the attention. So they go, today we are going to be talking about the importance of Islam. That is why we are here today. Because, and it becomes, becomes predictable. So try to place the emphasis on words at different parts of the sentence. Be expressive. I like to talk about cooking. Make a word pop. Make a flavor come out of it. Make it spicy. Carry a sentence. Carry a letter. Whatever it is to bring the people back into what you're saying. So when we look at different words or different terms that we use, some people will say pronunciation, some say pronunciation. Don't make a big deal of it. Because you know there are some people like, oh, it's not pronunciation, it's pronunciation. Things like that. Or tomato, tomato. Use them interchangeably. Because you don't want to alienate your listener. So sometimes use the word tomato, sometimes use the word tomato. You'll hear that we don't use the word cookie in our country, like for biscuits or cakes. But because there are American people who are listening, they're not going to understand what I'm talking about. So I have to sometimes use a word that Americans will understand, sometimes the words that the rest of the world understand. So you have to be conscious that your listenership or the people watching or listening to your talk may come from different cultural backgrounds. Terms may have different meanings for them. Whatever the common terms of the day, get to know them. Know both sides of the coin and use both. Therefore, you include the people. No one's going to come afterwards and they go, oh, he said that word wrong. And they're actually going to become conscious of the fact that you're respecting both interpretations. And that gives you more credibility with people. So they don't sit there and go, what did he mean? They'll know what you're talking about. It's important to do that. Inshallah, we'll learn to do that in our speeches. So we want to use not a passive voice, but an active voice. Have your voice doing different things all the time. I'm a bit monotonous, so I have to concentrate on doing that. Talking about getting monotonous, it's time for us to take a break. And when we get back from the break, I'll try not to be so monotonous, inshallah.
Scientific notions in the glorious Quran are among its endless aspects that can testify for the divine nature of this noble book. These scientific notions are probably the best addressed to the people of our time. I am Zaghlul Al-Najjar. Please join me in this program to discuss some aspects of the scientific notions in the glorious Quran.
سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق.
He created the universe.
Appreciate the word-to-word authenticity of scientific notions and proven facts mentioned in the glorious Quran 1400 years ago in Scientific Notions in the Glorious Quran. Every Saturday at 8 p.m. and repeat telecast at 8:30 a.m. UK on Peace TV. Marriage or divorce?
What's Islamic ruling?
Nikah.
Solution or problem? Heaven or hell?
There is a misconception.
You choose. Beauty, wealth, family status, virtue. Decide what you want. Decide your choice. Be sad or be happy. It's your choice. Join Dr. Zakir Naik in Better Half or Bitter Half tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 9:30 a.m. UK on Peace TV.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are talking about public speaking and specifically how to use it as a tool for dawah. When we are talking to people, how can we present Islam in such a way that people want to listen to us? And we've been speaking about how we should change our voice, not be artificial. There is a friend of mine who lives in the States. He's in Hollywood. Some people have Bollywood. He's in Hollywood. And every time you hear him talk, he's got a different accent because it's fake. So sometimes they have an accent like this. And then sometimes he's got an accent like this. And everyone notices how bad it is. You can't be fake. Keep your accent. You can't change it. But be conscious of the fact that some people are not going to understand certain ways you say a word. So you might have to alter it for the masses to understand. So there are certain words that I'll sometimes say. It sounds almost like I'm being artificial in the pronunciation of it. Because if I say it in the way we say it in my country, a lot of people won't understand it. And they go, what's that word? So you have to be conscious of that. So Every culture, even whether you're from America, Germany, Russia, Portugal, Brazil, we've all got those words that are very difficult for other people to pick up. So you have to be conscious. You can't get rid of your accent. That's who you are. It'll take many years to get rid of that, if ever. But try to be aware of certain words that maybe we swallow when we say them, that people won't get. I can't think of one offhand right now, but if I come across it during the course of the talking or the communication with you today, I will highlight it. So this is something important, that we understand that when we talk, our voice projection, our character and our voice, how we pronounce words or pronunciate words are very, very important, just as important as the content itself. So we need to make sure that we avoid any double meanings in what we are talking about when we are speaking to people. We don't want people to have an idea, okay, what did he mean by that? Is this what he meant, or was that what he meant? You must not have double meanings in terms, unless you're purposely doing it on purpose for people to get confused. If you're wanting to give an illustration, then you can do that. The I is very, very important. Not the I, but the I is very, very important in speaking. You want people to be focused on what you're saying or the presentation that you're presenting and not other things. So they mustn't be looking at how bad your posture is, or how bad your hairstyle is, or how bad your color coordination was. Have someone who you can consult, who will tell you that's not a good idea to wear, that's a good idea to wear. For example, when I went to buy a waistcoat like this one of the waistcoats that I wanted to get had stripes in it. And so there was somebody with me, and I said, will that work on television? So you have to be aware of some things work on television, some things don't work on television. Stripes may distract the camera, may get the camera to jump, and it can become so dizzy, I call it like you get a bit dizzy, that people will be so interested in the shirt or the waistcoat that they won't listen to the content. So be aware of the fact that your clothing can be a distraction. Get a consultant, ask them, can I wear stripes, can't I wear stripes? Does green suit me, doesn't green suit me? It's not about an ego, it's about what is going to distract people when you are talking. You know, sometimes you can have a dawah shirt on, or a shirt that does silent dawah. Is it going to take away from the conversation or add to the conversation? Sometimes if you talk to someone, you spend more time looking at their shirt or their top than you do listening to them, because there's so much distraction. So be careful what you're wearing. Some cultures, it's a tradition for Muslim men to wear rings. So sometimes they have that big silver ring and a big black stone on it, or whatever, a red stone, green stone, whatever it is. It can be distracting. So wherever possible, try to wear minimalism as far as jewelry, watches, anything, so that when people are talking to you, they're not looking at your watch, they're not looking at your, keep it simple. We're talking about that outfit the other day that I went and bought, and they had silver and bright shiny buttons and everything. You don't want it to have it too busy. But don't dress so badly that people go, yo, you don't want to do that either. So it's a balance. If you've got Polaroid glasses like these, they change color depending on the light. If you're outside in the light and there's bright lights, sunlight coming into the auditorium where you're talking, or the school, university, it looks like you're wearing sunglasses inside. So it looks like you're acting again too cool. So be cautious of something as simple as your glasses that you don't even think about. That they're not, changing the color. Rather just take them off then. So do your talk so people can see your eye contact. You're not trying to hide away from people when you're talking. So be aware of little things like that. But this is what happens. So when you're doing a talk, be aware of that fact as well. And when you're doing a public talk or a public lecture, or you're doing dawah to a group of people, you haven't got time for someone to say, cut, sort out your topi. They're just going like this, like they're all laughing at you as it's going left, left, left. So be conscious. I have a technique to sort this out when somebody doesn't say, what's your topi? Is I take my fingers like this, and I put 2 fingers above my eyebrow. Then I know it's straight. So what I do during the talk is I'll adjust. But I'm not actually doing it where everyone can see it. So it's just a small, just put your finger like that and you go, okay, it's still right. But you don't do it in front of everyone. It's just a subtle way. So figure out a way to check yourself, because you can't see a camera, you can't see mirrors around you, you can't say, just 1 minute, check, okay, yeah, I'm right, let's carry on. No. So figure out a system. Perhaps have your wife or a friend or someone you can trust But make sure they're not going to mess around with you, because I had a friend who used to do that. He used to sit in the audience and go, and I go, what? Like, I'd be doing the talk and I'd be adjusting, and there's nothing to adjust, but you're doing it on purpose just to mess around. You know what you do when you see with somebody and you want to really distract with them? Even if you're doing a public talk and you go like this, what do they all end up doing? They all go, what, where? Everyone starts looking like there's something wrong. So be cautious of what you do. Remember, we are talking about real life issues, real issues that face a da'i. So we want to find systems that will make it easier for people not to be distracted, to actually hear what you are saying, and to have the best possible outcome of what you're talking about or what you are trying to present. Posture is important. My father used to have a very slouchy posture. He used to sit like this. And one day, a woman came to him and he said, "Are you very unhappy?" And he said, "What?" And she said, "Are you an unhappy person?" And he said, "No." He said, "Well, why do you sit like an unhappy person?" And from that day onwards, he started to sit upright, because somebody, all his life, he sat like slouching. And then somebody said, "Are you an unhappy person?" So sometimes we need someone to correct our posture. I'm not saying that you must sit there like a waiter or, some hotel, like a bellboy or whatever. I lean forward, I lean backwards, but try to, don't keep your posture. You want to represent Islam properly. You want people to look and go, "I want to be like that." But don't become like a supermodel. Like some of the models, they walk, the guys, it's not talking about girls, I'm talking about the guys. They walk like 12 to 12 with their feet. Looks like the runway. Do that either. As in "Hey, I'm so cool. Hey, I've arrived." Don't be like that. And don't walk around like you can hear you coming a mile away. Clap, clap, clap. Just have respect for yourself. Think about those people who are watching you. It's like the fingers. The story about people licking their fingers. There's nothing wrong with licking your finger. In fact, you should lick your finger. It's sunnah to do it. But don't do it so loud that the people 3 tables away can hear you licking your fingers. Understand? So do it in a way that is respectful for other people around you, that somebody sees and say, "Oh, that's nice." They're encouraged to do it themselves. So even if they see you licking your fingers, let them see it in a way that encourages them to do it. Not in a way that goes, "Yes, I'll never do that in public." Let them see something nice about what you're doing, so that people see what we're doing and go, "Oh, I want to do that as well. I want to add that into my habit in life." Okay. The eye contact, we've already spoken about how you need to make eye contact, not too much. Gestures and motions are very, very important, but don't let the motions and gestures that you use in your talk override your lecture. There are some people, when they talk, you guaranteed every single time they're going to do a talk, they're going to use that gesture. It's going to come up. It's almost like their trademark gesture, and they don't even realize they're doing it. So be cautious of becoming predictable in your gestures. Try to change your gestures to suit every occasion. Also be careful of what you do with your gestures, so you don't separate people from what you're doing. Control the emotion that you're going through. Be very, very cautious of that. Sometimes things become very overwhelming when we do lectures. We start to realize, have I applied this to my own life? Allah's listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth. So you become conscious of this, and it becomes very, very emotional. Happens to me more times than you would ever realize. So you have to be careful on how you control these emotions. Not to become that you appear too cold, and not where it becomes almost, and people go, "Oh, here we go again." You understand? So keep control over this issue. Well, talking about control, we've run out of time again. So we're going to have to join me again as we come to the end of this specific part on how to be a good speaker. Well, next time we're together. So join me, Areeb Islam, and those in the studio. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
مشفق متعطف لا ينتهي بالحصر ما أعطاه رب رحيم مشفق متعطف
Oh
The value of money in the hereafter will be measured by its proper use in the present.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة.
According to the glorious Quran, one of the best ways to use your money is to spend it in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by spreading His message of Islam. Peace TV is a non-profit Islamic satellite television channel that is primarily dedicated for just that cause, the proper presentation of Islam. It's a great choice to invest in.